You're listening to She's the Business podcast. Okay, amazing. So I'm here with the lovely Kirsten Graham, who is the co-founder of Six Figure Business Coaching. Welcome, Kirsten. So glad to have you with me today.
Jessica, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about our conversation and looking forward to seeing all the turns it takes today.
Yes, likewise. I really appreciate these type of chats that we have because it's just so refreshing to bring different people here onto the podcast. I think everybody comes with so much different lived experience in business, insights, the things that they can look back on and see that were so instrumental in easier success, and then sharing that with other people. I think, it's beautiful to be able to learn from each other. So I appreciate you coming on here today because I'm really keen to get into the topic that you have, which is going to help us be more productive and save time in our business. But first, can you tell us a bit about what it is that you do in your business? Who do you serve? How do you help them?
Sure. So long story, but my background is real estate. And my business partner, her background is marketing. I ended up mentoring people for about a decade before I actually became a business coach. And then as a business coach, the thing that I saw was most business owners don't have enough hours in the day. And the biggest thing that they struggle with is lead generation because of their marketing. So my business partner, Jeannie, and I, one of the things that has changed dramatically, as you know, Jessica, is that marketing's changed. It's hard for an agency to do all of your marketing. They can run ads and do those types of things. But when it comes to content creation, we have to show up. So Jeannie and I decided to really start helping our clients with outsourcing. Because again, the biggest challenge we have is there's just not enough hours in the day. So we help our clients with outsourcing marketing tasks. So for example, video editing, audio editing, social media marketing, email marketing. We were talking earlier that my virtual assistant got me booked on this podcast. So we help clients who want to use that strategy where they have a virtual assistant who gets them booked on podcasts so that they can have great conversations with people like you and get in front of other audiences to grow their brand and obviously generate leads and sales. And we also have virtual assistants that help our clients with setting up appointments. So whether those are discovery calls or sales calls or enrollment calls or even follow-up calls to get that second appointment. So that's what we really focus on is outsourcing, but we really stay in a very tight lane of marketing. And that's for two reasons. Jeannie's background is marketing. And second reason is because we really believe that that's the most valuable place for most business owners to spend their money to get the best ROI.
Now, what do you think would be the biggest difference between an agency type of service and outsourcing? Like just for people who maybe don't have that marketing background and have never used an agency before, and they may not understand or recognize the difference between them. So how would you describe that?
Yeah, so I think having a marketing agency can be brilliant. I mean, all of your large corporations, hire marketing agencies. I think the biggest challenge for small businesses is it's not affordable. However, I think it's really smart if you are going to spend money on ads to hire an agency who really specializes in the type of ads that you want to do, because that's a whole different learning curve to learn how to do ads. But I do think it's harder today for an agency to create content that can truly represent you, because people want to see us show up in our businesses. They want to get to know us, like us, and trust us before they decide if they're going to do business for us. And I think that's just gotten harder for agencies to do over the past few years. And it's really interesting because we don't act as a marketing agency, and we also don't act as an outsourcing agency. So we're very different, and we kind of operate this way for two reasons. The first reason is it's easier for us to coach a client on a marketing strategy that is right for them, right for their type of business, right for their personality. And then the other side of that is when you outsource through an agency, that virtual assistant always works for that agency. So you pay the agency, they pay the virtual assistant, and they often work for a lot of different clients. The thing that was really important to us was we wanted our clients to have a virtual assistant who worked directly for them, who is part of their business, part of their team, because that dynamic is very, very different. So we also do a lot of coaching with our clients on how to, be a great boss and leader and manager of someone halfway around the world. So whether that's cultural differences or just, us as women, especially stepping into that leadership role and giving direction and coaching our virtual assistants so that they're consistently creating content that we're proud of.
Yeah, that is so important. I know that as somebody who has been a manager back in my corporate days, and then, I do outsource and have some VAs that work for me, but it is so critical to be communicating really clearly what it is that you want done, not only, but also like, what does success really look like? And I think that it's always been, I see a lot of people being frustrated with like, oh, well, I hired a VA and it didn't work. And I'm always like, well, it may not be the VA. It may be that there was just a really big gap in understanding of what it was that you wanted done and what your expectation was, and that they didn't deliver in line with it. And it's, usually we've got to actually take that responsibility back, wouldn't you say, and kind of put that hat back on and say, well, that's on me. If they didn't deliver what I wanted, then that's not them. It's really on me. And you've got to look at your own communication style and how you're briefing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really funny. Jeannie and I started outsourcing 16 years ago. So she was actually one of my coaching clients, and she was building her agency. And this was right when local businesses were really starting to use Facebook fan pages, LinkedIn, blogging, email marketing. Online businesses have been using it for a long time. But, back 16 years ago, it was a lot newer to a lot of local businesses. And she ended up teaching a bunch of classes. She sold out the classes. The business owners came, they learned, but then inevitably they reached out to her and said, I don't want to do this stuff. Like, I don't want to set up my Facebook profile. I don't want to set up a LinkedIn profile. I don't want to post on these platforms. So she ended up getting really busy rather quickly. And I said to her, I've read about outsourcing overseas. Would you want to try that? And she said, yes. And we like to joke because, I know it's like, why we even tried, I don't know. But this was before Zoom. It was before Skype, so it was a very different situation. And we were taken advantage of several times. We were the crappiest, worst bosses on the planet. And I say we because I was coaching her through this process and helping her with it. But it was a learning curve, right? It was a big learning curve, but the payoff was worth it. And so every time we learned something new, we documented it and figured it out. So I think the biggest challenge is people hire before they have their SOPs or systems and processes in place. They haven't documented their workflows. They, like you said, they don't have a clear outcome that they're expecting. So it really does set them up to fail. And like you, that's the biggest thing I hear is I hired a virtual assistant and oh my gosh, it was more work than it's worth. If I had to spend all that time with them, I'll do it myself. So, and that's a mindset that will keep your business really small or really drive you into the ground with burnout, because there's just, it doesn't make sense for us to do everything when you can pay someone halfway around the world $3 an hour to do a lot of these things. But it does require a different skill set to learn how to hire for hard skills, soft skills, to make sure you have, a job description. I think that's the other big mistake people make. They want to hire someone who's good at everything. They want to hire someone who is really good at yes, the magical unicorn. And it's really funny because a lot of our clients who already have marketing virtual assistants who take care of their video editing and all of those things are now in the process of hiring a virtual assistants to get them booked on podcasts. And the question they'll often ask was, well, will my marketing virtual assistant be able to do this? And I was like, inevitably they can do it, but are they going to love doing it? Like, you hire this person because they love video editing, they love graphic design, they love creating. So, getting booked on podcasts, as you know, is a lot of reach out, follow up, wait, reach out, follow up, reschedule, reach out, follow up. And so it's not necessarily the type of job that somebody who's incredibly creative is going to enjoy doing. And that, I think, has been a lot of our success and our clients' success, is in the fact that we understand if you hire someone to do specific tasks, and those are things that they're really good at, they're really passionate about doing, they're going to be happy in the job and they're going to be with you for a long time and they're going to do an amazing job. And we always encourage our clients to ask their virtual assistants, would you like to learn new skills? Are there things do you have hopes or dreams, or how do you see your career going within our company? Because they can grow into doing other things for you or different roles over time. But it's all about that communication and making sure that they're doing things, not just because you ask them to do them, because they will, but eventually they'll get burnt out and they'll leave you because they're not spending most of their time doing, what you hired them for or what they're really good at and love doing.
Yeah, that is so true. And, you can just see that, reflected onto yourself. What are the things that you love doing, and what were you, in the day feeling really good about versus what feels really hard? And I think that often there's that whole, well, I know that person already, and so it's just easier to ask them to do it. And like you said, it's not that they can't do it, but when it's not in their core competency, it could probably take them longer. It could be harder. They may not be getting as good a results, and that would lead them to be feeling like more of a failure as well. So it's kind of like this negative cycle that happens there. Whereas when you can help them to shine and to use their skills that they're really good at, then that's a win-win for both of you, because they're really leveraging that time best for you. So I love that. It's such a good reminder, because I think we do often just feel like, you want to keep it simple. And that's one of those catch-22s. I think because of my days back in marketing and using agencies through business, agencies tended to always want everything. They're like, we do it all. And I'd be like, no, but what do you actually do best? And I was probably like their nightmare client to interview them, because they would come in trying to get all of my business. And I'd be saying, well, you tell me what you would win an award for. And that's what I'm interested, maybe, if that's what I need. But that's what the only thing I'm really interested in talking to you about. I don't care about all the other things that you do. And it was challenging for a lot of them, because it wasn't how they were coming into it with that mindset. I'm like, no, but I don't want to hire you for stuff you're mediocre at, or that you just do because you think I'm going to add another service. I want to hire you for what you are great at and what you really have the skill set for. And so coming into your business, having that the same way, you're like, well, I, would have someone who's an accountant who that's what they do, and someone who does the podcast editing, that's what they do. And then I have an admin person who does, they're really good with spreadsheets and administrative tasks. And then it's, you think, well, you could keep on adding more people. And then I guess a lot of business owners might get to the point where they're like, I just don't really know if I want a big team. So what's that good balance that you would find in helping someone navigate that, where they're like, well, I do want to hire people for their main skill set, and then you do still have a whole lot of, shall we say, hats that you need to fill in your business, because there are different areas of skills. So how do you help someone navigate that, where they are leveraging it to the best abilities of their VAs, but also not having a team that's then become so big that it's taking all their time just to manage all the people?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is we don't manage our team personally all the time. We manage them through systems and processes and technology. So I think that's the biggest thing, is when you have your team documenting what they're doing and checking off things so that you can very quickly see what's being done. I think that's important. So having that really tight structure for how each team member works and how you communicate on projects. Project management software is amazing. I don't think I could live without it. So I think there are things that we have to learn first as far as how to work with people, rather than emailing back and forth. Being able to tag each other in the software and have notes there that everyone can see makes a lot more sense. So I think that's one of the bigger things that has to happen first. And then also growing your team at a pace that you can keep up with. So a lot of our clients do go on from us helping them with their first hire to hiring multiple people. And we always encourage them, hire slowly, fire quickly, right? So make sure that you do have the time when you bring that person on to onboard them, to spend time with them 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, the first couple of weeks, and then you can back that down. But initially, it is so important, especially with people halfway around the world, that you're taking time to build a relationship with them. You're taking time to make sure they understand the core values of your business. You're making sure that you understand their communication style. So we believe if you front load the investment time, then it really helps you move forward to the point where everything goes really smoothly. We still try to meet with each of our virtual assistants once a week. A lot of them we do in a team meeting. But again, for us, even though a lot of them they just kick butt, they do their job and they really don't have to see us, we still like to have that weekly check-in with them, because again, it is about connection and it is about relationship. And then a couple of times a year, we're always going to meet them individually and say, are you happy? is there anything you want to learn? Is there anything you're doing that you're totally bored with that you'd like to hand off to someone else and maybe take on something new? So we also want to develop them and help them develop their skills and to be happy long-term working for us, because once you have someone who knows their job really well and they consistently do a good job, you don't want to have to start over and replace that person.
Yeah.
So I would just say the biggest thing is building the team slowly and making sure you're leveraging software and you definitely have all of your systems and processes, everything's documented. I think that's really the key.
Yeah. I so totally agree with that. And it's so important. You've made some amazing points there. I had a question and I was thinking about how to coin this question, because I think that it will really help for people to understand, what that benefit really could be of bringing in a VA to help with marketing, and how that's different to, hiring an agency or using an agency, where I think it's more so like you hand off everything to the agency and they do it on your behalf. Whereas with a VA, like you said, the important thing is that we're actually taking part in the content creation and that you are in your own content. So could you describe to us and to the listeners, what does that look like? And you had the example of a VA booking you on this podcast, and here you are doing the content with me, which is amazing. But I'm sure you've got some other examples that would just help us to visualize what that looks like in terms of outsourcing marketing with a VA as opposed to outsourcing the marketing, kind of like shifting it off to a whole other company to look after.
Sure. So when I started coaching Jeannie and she had her agency, so back in 2006, I still owned a mortgage company and a title company. And one of the things that Jeannie encouraged me to do was to start creating YouTube videos, which I did. And my first video was really just out of complete frustration, because I would have a conversation with a client and I would go over everything that I needed for them to bring in to make loan application. And then I would send them an email with a checklist. And inevitably, they would come back with like 70, maybe 75% of the documents we needed, which meant my processors then had to chase them for it. And then it always felt like it wasn't a good experience for them because we were always asking them for more things when the reality was it was what we asked for in the beginning. So my first video was really like, we need your past 2 years of W-2s, and that popped up. And, we need, your past 3 months of bank statements, and we need all of the pages because the underwriter doesn't know that page 7 is completely blank. So you have to provide page 7. So I did that video as our first video, and we went on to do a lot of other video content. And Jessica, this is where I learned the power of video marketing, and it kind of blew me away. When people would come into the office and they knew me, like they were already connected to me. And I am racing around in my head thinking, how do I know this person? Where did I meet them? Oh my gosh. Like, how you're embarrassed when you run into someone and they know you and you can't place them. And so after that happened a few times, and the reality was they knew me from my videos. That blew me away. That reality of that blew me away. And one of the things that Jeannie and I focus on in my mortgage company, we survived 2008. We weren't thriving, but we survived. And then in 2013, my coaching business had really taken off. And I decided to leave that industry. My mom was terminally ill, and it was just the right time for me to exit that industry. But I realized, us showing up in our content is invaluable. And I don't care if you're a local business or an online business, you have to show up. So one of the things that Jeannie and I really focus on is helping our clients come up with a video marketing strategy. So, if you're a real estate agent and you don't have a YouTube channel, you're missing out. If you own a law firm and you don't have a real estate channel, you're missing out, because you have this incredible opportunity to leverage SEO and local SEO, as well as to build know, like, and trust. So that was really something that we felt like was so powerful. And of course, I think all of the online coaches and people in the online space, they know how important it is. So they're more likely to embrace it. But we really decided to focus initially on helping our clients just create one amazing video each week. So whether it is a talking head video or whether they decide to do a podcast style video like this and then pull the audio and put it out as a proper podcast, But we feel like that is the easiest and fastest way for people to show up as themselves. So once we can help them get over the discomfort of being on camera and really help them cement their strategy and understand their keywords, we find that most of them have a really great time with it because their virtual assistant does everything else. All they have to do is record the video and then hand it off, and everything else gets done, including all of the social media that's pulled from that video. So I guess what I would say is the biggest difference is you could hire an agency who would do that editing for you, right? Rather than hiring your own virtual assistant, but it's just going to cost you exponentially more. So if you're going to create your own content, which again, we highly recommend, there are lots of agencies out there that will help you record a video. They will go ahead and edit that video. But we also have a lot of clients that own agencies that actually hire virtual assistants through us. And for agency owners, and I know you said you work with a lot of agencies, a lot of times agencies are chasing their clients to get content from them, right? So whether they want some behind the scene pictures, of everybody in the office working, or whether they want the client to create a video, whatever it is, people tend to put it off. So for a lot of times agencies have to chase that. And I think for us, we try to create a supportive environment where we're really coaching the client and helping them and holding their hand through that process of content creation. So I just think the other thing I think is, a lot of our clients just can't afford, $2,000 to $3,000 a month, which I think is on the low end of hiring an agency. So they just can't afford that. And so being able to hire someone part-time for $250 a month or full-time for $500 or $600 a month, that is doable for them. So I think cost is the biggest thing. But so Jessica, I think here's what really surprised me most when we really started helping our clients hire, because I've always had businesses where I've had employees or staff. So I wasn't expecting to hear so many people say things like, now that I have my virtual assistant, I feel like a real business owner. Or I had no idea how isolated and lonely I was in my business. No one in my family owns a business. So I love when I'm meeting with my virtual assistant and we're talking about my content, or they're helping me create an ad, for a local gazette or whatever it is. There's this passion of working with someone else who's excited about their job within your business. The other thing is, how often, especially as women, do we beat ourselves up because we can't do it all? We think we should be able to do it all. And so when our clients have hired a virtual assistant, they say things like, I had no idea like how many hours I was working and how much I was beating myself up until I hired my virtual assistant. And then I realized that I was expecting that I could do my job and everything that they do. What was I, crazy? So I think there's this freedom and this power in getting support. That's what we like to refer to it as. You're getting support in your business. I think the other thing where it's very different than hiring an agency, that agency is business. So it's a business to business contract, where when you hire a virtual assistant, and again, we encourage our clients to hire them directly, that person now is part of your business. They're part of your team. They're part of your business family. And that is a very different dynamic than just hiring a company to do something for you.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you get that buy-in from them. They are invested in your business. It's not just like they're a client that I need to do something for. So that's amazing. Now you mentioned, that people aren't always gravitating towards hiring straight away, which was not something I had a problem with. As I mentioned before, I'd been a manager. So I like in business, I'm like straight away, well, I don't want to be doing any kind of bookkeeping. So first time as a bookkeeper. But, I think there are a lot of people that what I've seen and noticed is that they come into business and they're kind of treating it almost like it's their job. So I've created a business and I'm in it working, and it's like they're seeing it as one thing instead of that they're currently wearing many, many hats and they're doing all the roles in their business, and they don't see it in that way until you kind of get it reflected to you. But even when they do notice that and they do see, well, actually, I am doing all the jobs right now, and maybe they also recognize that they're not the best person to do all of the jobs, there's still resistance in hiring somebody else. What do you think is the biggest piece that they're resisting? Like, why are they resisting hiring, even though they know logically it makes sense? It's still, when it comes down to it, what are the things that you think are the biggest barriers that they have to overcome, that you could help to reframe and help somebody see that differently?
Sure. So I think, like you talked about in the beginning, there's so many things that we take on as business owners that we're not necessarily great at, right? Like you said, you wear all the hats. So for a lot of people, writing a job description, creating the job post, knowing how to interview someone, onboarding them, creating the SOPs.
Don't have time.
All of that, that's a lot, right? Who has time to do all of that, right? So which is why we do all of that for our clients. But yeah, so I think, first of all, it's just overwhelming. They don't know where to start. I think when it comes to outsourcing overseas, the biggest things that I hear, in fact, I was at a local chamber luncheon today, and it was focused on what local businesses could do to get and retain great workforce. And I live in Florida, so we have a large population that's retired. So it's even harder for a lot of business owners here to hire because there's just not enough applicants. So when I was talking with everyone about outsourcing, the thing that they're afraid of or that they don't understand is, well, what about the time zone difference? Well, half the people in the Philippines work at nighttime, so that they're on our schedule. Or what about their English? So yes, there's most of them have been speaking English since they were young. And it's really funny because a lot of our virtual assistants who are, let's say, under 35, so they have young families, almost all of them choose to speak primarily in English with their children because they understand how important it is for them to be really, really fluent in English and to have less of an accent. I mean, they still want them to learn their language and culture, obviously, but they really focus a lot on English. So I think that's something else. Well, can I get someone who I could actually communicate with? So I think it's just there are a lot of fears around it. But I think it's like anything else. You can choose to go it alone, or you can find, someone to help you with that. Someone who's gone through that, that minefield before you and got to the other side safely, who can guide you. And so I also think that there's something else that is deeper that holds people back from hiring. And I think sometimes it's the safety of sitting at home behind your computer. So for people, they would rather spend hours and hours and hours learning how to edit video or learning how to do something in Canva because it's safer than getting out and having a conversation with someone, right? So most people don't realize the number one thing that you need to be good at to start a business is sales. And most people think sales is a horrible, lousy, sleazy word. But the bottom line is, if you're not going out and getting clients and bringing them into your business, you don't have a business. So it's a lot easier to sit and do other things. You're working, but you're not working on things. Yes, you're keeping busy. So, and again, I think that's perfectly normal. Like it's scary to get out there and have conversations with people. It's scary to get rejection. So it's a lot easier to do the busy work, I think.
Yeah. And what would you say to the person who's like, well, it's just faster if I do it because I'm already doing this and I know what I'm doing, and so I can just get it done. Whereas bringing someone else in and then showing them how to do it, that's just going to take me so much time. Like, do you get that resistance from people who just don't want to let go of stuff because they think it's faster and easier if they do it?
Well, faster and easier, or I can do it better. Right. So look, I know I just know I can do it better. So, for some people, being self-employed, so starting a business that just employs themselves, they've created a job for themselves, is the extent of what they want. And that is okay. Right. Because it is a total different skill set and desire to learn how to manage people and to learn how to coach people and to give up some control. So when someone says, oh, well, I've got my editing down, or, whatever it is, and, I do it just the way I want it. Well, the reality is, if I am a good coach, if I'm a good employer, I can get a virtual assistant up and running who can do it just as well as I do it, if not better, in the long run. And it doesn't make sense for us to do $3 an hour tasks. That's what I keep reminding people of. If you can pay someone $3 an hour to do something, what could you go do with that other hour? Could you go to a local networking event? Could you get involved in an online networking event? Could you reconnect with some people in a Facebook group? Could you follow up with some people that you talked to a week ago to go ahead and close that sale? What could you do in that hour that would really move your business? And heck, maybe it's just go have dinner with your family, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, take some time out. So true. And I think that one of the biggest, shifts that I had to make back in the day was, and, it started off actually being a manager and delegating to my team at the time, even though I knew I was able to do it and I was doing, I had all those thoughts, well, it's faster if I do it and it's of the quality that I want when I do it. So yes, if I invest the time now in helping, another person learn what to do and how to do it to the level that I want, that time investment now pays off in dividends, because then it comes off your plate. Maybe not 100%. You might still be checking in with them and, you'll have a microscopic amount of time for that activity still. But it's like you invest the time now in order to gain it back. And I think that that's the shift that I think a lot of people have trouble with, because they're thinking about, oh, but this is going to take me so much time. And so they're just, you're in the present moment thinking about, I don't have the time to invest because I'm doing the thing. It's like, yeah, I know. Yeah. But that's why you don't have the time to invest, because you're doing the thing. So what if you actually go, well, what else am I doing that doesn't actually need to be done right now, that I can take a little bit of that time and I can invest it in another person learning this. So then they're taking this whole thing off my plate. And so you're always looking for, what are you spending so much time on? Like, what are the really big time sucks? And like you say, the stuff that's like, it doesn't matter if you do it or someone else does it, because it's faceless. You're behind the business doing something in the back end. You aren't really adding the value as the person, as the leader, as the business owner. And I love those examples of like, yeah, you could be getting out and actually meeting people or making new connections. Like, only you can do that. No one else can be you doing those things, right? So it's like, yes, it's crazy when you think about it. But, I'm saying that because I've experienced this. I've been that person who was doing the things and holding tight to the control of it as well, and not wanting to let go. Yeah. And yeah, it just does make such a difference when you do.
Right. We have a little story here. We had a client who, when she was younger, and she's a dietitian and she has a huge local business and online business. And when she was younger, she worked at a restaurant and she ended up being responsible for the wait staff and the host staff's scheduling. Mm-hmm. Well, if you've ever worked in a restaurant, it's like herding cats, right? And so she ended up kind of getting thrown into this role that she didn't really get trained to do. And she felt like a total failure every day. Mm-hmm. So in her mind, she was a terrible leader. She was a terrible manager. So this experience that she had like in college was dictating whether or not as a professional businesswoman, she could step into the role of CEO and manage and lead her team. Right. So we have to look at the things that have happened to us in the past. Then they make us have fears or doubts, because that's perfectly normal. And so, even with her, she did require a little bit more coaching around stepping into that role of the CEO and learning how to coach and how to, really get your team built the way you want it. But her team's been with her forever now. So she's fantastic. So I think we have to look, do we have any past fears around it? But on the flip side of the coin, for the people who, don't want to take the time or no one can do it as well as they do, there's another side of that coin, which is like my pet peeve, which is when people will say to me, I just want to hire a virtual assistant who will tell me what to do. And I'm like, well, then you should just get a job, right? Because that's not the role of your virtual assistant. It's not your virtual assistant's job to come in and tell you what to do, right? If you want to hire an admin or you want to hire a virtual assistant who maybe has better tech skills than you do, that can really help you get your Google Calendar up and running and help you, get your booking links and your software set up, that makes sense. So if you need support with technology to help you get more organized, yeah, your virtual assistant can totally do that. But it's really important that you always step into the leadership role with your team, that they, and I think that's a hard shift for a lot of women. But I will tell you, the vast majority of our clients are women, not all of them, but women are incredible leaders and managers once they step into that role because they're nurturing and they're kind. And, as long as they understand how to have clear boundaries and expectations of those virtual assistants, which again can be dictated through SOPs. So it's documented, it's very clear. And they end up just being amazing, amazing leaders.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think we carry with us a lot from our past. When you've had a job and you've been an employee, it is very different coming into your own business. And like you mentioned a few minutes ago, about the difference between creating a job for yourself and creating a business. And this is like a shift that I've helped some clients kind of navigate. It's like, well, yes, as a freelancer, essentially you are creating a job for yourself and you're still expecting to be hired by another company and you're being told what to do and you're delivering on it, and you're doing your own admin and what have you, which is technically under the umbrella of a business, but really you are an employee of another company. Whereas it's quite different to then step into and see yourself as a business owner and that you're running a business. And it is just it's a mental shift in that, and it may not even look that different on the outside, but it's very different in how you approach things, isn't it? Like that change, and to look at the potential and what you're able to make possible now that you are running a business and bringing people in, and what's then going to be possible for you. I had a question for you about, what are the, I guess, quality and consistency are two things that people have a lot of, I'm not going to say they have issues with, they have concerns about, well, I'm going to bring people in. I do have the SOP, so they know what to do, but, what are the ways that you can help your team, your virtual assistant, to have more consistency and to uphold the level of quality that you're expecting so that it's successful for you? What would you suggest?
Right. So one, I think meeting with team members weekly, I think it's very important to have that face-to-face, even if it's face-to-face on Zoom relationship. The other thing is addressing things that aren't getting done right away and not being afraid to set that boundary and ask, this is documented, you checked it off, why wasn't it done? And then shut your mouth and wait for them to answer, and just say we have these processes in place so that we don't skip steps, because a lot of the things that we do require a lot of, steps that have to happen in order for everything to get done, especially with video, audio production and content creation. So I think it's just a matter of not letting things go and addressing it right away. And in fact, I saw something today when I was watching one of our videos that I realized wasn't done. And so I've got an email going out later to the person who handles this job, and she does a lot for us and she's amazing. So I will just circle it around. I'll just say, hey, I know you've been really busy, but it's really important that these things are consistently done. Can you go back and look at your past few, videos and make sure this was done? So not letting things slide, which does require us to stay on top of things and look through things. But I think what happens is understanding that they are human, and we had asked her to do an extra project. So I can kind of understand where she might have just gotten extra busy. So I have to take that into consideration. And then ask her just to circle back and take care of it, when she has some time this up and coming week. So I think it's just not being afraid to do that, to just ask, what happened here? What can I do to support you so this can get done consistently? Is there a reason why this particular thing always slides? Do you not know how to do it? Do you need different technology? What can I do to help you? So I think if you could take on that response, then they start to realize that anytime things aren't done the way they are supposed to be done, you are going to address it. And again, I think for a lot of women that can be uncomfortable, but anybody who's ever had a job, and I'm sure Jessica, you'll speak to this too, you want a boss or a manager who's consistent. Like nobody wants to work for that crazy person where you never really know what they want from you or what they expect from you. And one minute they're happy with you, that you think you did the exact same thing, and the next minute they're screaming at you, right? So everybody who's worked at a job has had that type of leadership and management. So don't be that person.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think one of the things that I found with a lot of people is, really helping them to take ownership of the job. And this can be something, especially if you're that perfectionist type, or you've been in roles where you're used to doing all the things, and it's part of releasing control over it. But,
right.
Actually allowing them to own the job and the role and the responsibility for it, while you are there holding space, enabling them, like you said, like, well, how can I help you succeed in this? Is there something that you're missing? Do you not understand it? And making it okay to ask for help when they need it. But yeah, like, I think that's one of the key things that I've found to get the most productivity out of people, is that they're not feeling like they have to always come back to you. And that's where I also see people as managers going, this is like taking too much of my time because I'm doing all the stuff. And I'm like, because maybe we haven't enabled that person properly. Like, we haven't actually handed over enough. So that they could do it. I'm really interested about, and maybe just to dive into this for a moment, because I think maybe other people have that question as well. We talk about SOPs, standard operating procedures, and that all makes sense on a logic understanding level. Like, yes, we need to have an operating procedure and like instructions. What's a really good way, if you had some tips or advice on someone who's starting out, how do you, what's a good way of organizing those or providing them or making them accessible? Because, I guess when I think about it, I think, well, you write it, you provide it to them, they look at it once and then they never look at it again. Well, that's probably not going to mean that it gets followed. So what would it look like in an ideal world when you're working with a virtual assistant, especially one overseas? You mentioned technology. I'm interested to know what paint me a picture of what it could look like, of how you enable it. Yeah.
Sure. So I think this is also where the shift of a person who goes from, okay, I started a business, so I have a job for myself. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, right? If that's where a person is happy, there's nothing wrong with that. To shifting to, okay, I have started this business and right now I have to do a lot of things on my own, but I have the mindset that I know I'll be handing things off. And I love the saying, if you do something more than 3 times that has 3 steps or more, you document it. So creating that process of doing things so that you can hand it off. So for us, we have all of our systems and processes are documented in Trello or Asana, or it used to be Basecamp. So documenting them in a software, and you can then have, so each of our videos that are produced has a card that has a complete checklist. So every single piece of content that is produced has checklists for each part of who has it. If it's being video edited, if the audio is being edited, has it been uploaded, to YouTube with the SEO? Has the SEO been done? Has it been uploaded, to Spotify and Apple? Everything is checked off because, again, I think in our video production, not even when we get to the social media part, I want to say there's like 86 steps from start to finish. So that's a lot of things. And it's really easy to forget one. And it's also, if you have to stop and go do something else. So we actually use checklists within our SOPs for ourselves as well, because it's very easy to get distracted by something that pops up and to forget where you are in something. So I think that using a structure that has checklists and are you consistently using it makes a lot of sense. And I think what's hard about that is entrepreneurs, we often tend to not like structure. I mean, I don't. My business partner loves it because she's the one that creates all of our SOPs. She's fantastic with that. But I find that when I have structure and I consistently follow it, it is a lot easier. My day goes by faster. I get more done. So just finding a way, whatever software works for you, but realizing that once you create the process, that checklist can be duplicated multiple times in software. So every time someone does something, they are going step by step and not missing it. And then there's things like, there's things that you don't do very often. So for example, a lot of our clients, use a software that can have, has their emails and their funnels and all of those things in there. And they will often want their marketing virtual assistant to build a funnel, which is fine. We can have one of our software virtual assistants show them how to do that. But the problem with that is if that marketing virtual assistant for that client is only going to build a funnel once every 8 or 9 months, they're most likely not going to remember it. So we could do a Loom video and document it. Although the problem with that is technology often changes.
Yeah.
So I would actually say to our client, for something like this, rather than having your on-team person do it, just outsource that to one of our software virtual assistants. It's affordable. And then that person knows the software inside and out. They're working in it every day. So it's going to take them no time to build that new funnel for you. But on things that I don't do very often, technology wise, Jeannie will create a video for me or I'll record it so that I know next time I need to do something, I can just watch the video because I may not remember in 4 months how I did something that uses technology. So you just have to find little ways to have things and then find a way to organize the things that you've documented. That's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I love that. I do love the Loom because it's so easy just to turn on the Loom and show them something. And I always say, please download that and save that. We've got sort of like a team site where I've got a whole lot of that stuff saved, which is great. But I think even a takeaway for me is I use Asana and we use it for a lot of projects, but I don't necessarily have a lot of the processes in there as a templated task with the subtasks and for the steps. But that's such an easy win because we use Asana already. We're familiar with it. Things are in there. And I'm now seeing some opportunities to actually put some things in there that we do that the person who's doing them knows what they're doing every time. And we did agree on it. But what if they aren't there tomorrow? What if something happens? Somebody else could go into Asana, grab that templated task and literally be able to go through and do it as well. So that's what to me is that's where you've got gold happening and, things don't fall apart if a person happens to be away or sick or something goes on, right? Because it's there and easy for everyone to access. So that's amazing.
Well, you can just ask your virtual assistant who's doing that job to create the template card.
Absolutely.
And review it with you in your next meeting and, explain that you would like for that person to start using it, even though they know the job, so that you can make sure that no steps were missed so that you could delegate it. And that's one of the good things with us is it's easy for us to move things around within the team. If somebody wants to learn something new or we have a new project or something different that we want to give to someone, we can very easily take some things off of their plates and reassign them to someone else because it's documented and then that person can train the other person on the job. So by having everything documented, it's very easy to move tasks around among team members. But I think it's just, I love technology. And I think for people, we give all of our clients all of our SOPs. So we provide those for them. So we train our clients on them and we train the virtual assistants on them. So for a lot of people, what we hear is, oh my gosh, I'd always heard about SOPs. I didn't really know what they were. I looked it up. I didn't really know how to do it. I've tried documenting some things, but then I didn't even remember where I put them. And so when they end up getting our structure and then using that with their team, they very easily go on to duplicate that for other parts of their business. And then they can start to hire for other things. So I think it's just something we're not ever really taught or we don't really see it. And even within corporate America, it's still different. In larger companies, they definitely have systems and processes. But again, I think it's even a little bit different when you have people halfway around the world that you do want to be able to, at a glance, look in. And I can see where everyone is with any of their tasks at any moment. So that makes it really easy for me to look in and see what's going on without necessarily having to ask questions.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think my experience of SOPs in the corporate world were very long, boring documents.
Yes.
And that's to me, you might, I'd rather stick pins in my eyes than look at those things. So
yes,
I think it was that was my context and my filter and understanding of SOPs. And then coming into my own business, I'm oh, well, I don't want those because they are just boring as batshit. And I don't want to do that. But, when you reframe that into, well, set up an Asana task and have, the steps as subtasks in there, it's super easy. It's like a checklist. And I was just loving the idea of that because instantly I was wow, anytime you want to change what the process is, you want to move something or add something else in, you just update that templated task, the one that you have as the template that each time you would duplicate from. And it's already in there, right? The changes in there, it's straight away implementable. And I think, wow, that is just a massive difference. Time saving is visible, it's easy to use. So, that's a game changer. It's something so simple with that, isn't it?
Well, Jessica, you bring up a really good point, is that once you create the checklist, the template card, it's always going to evolve and change because things change. So I think that is the other thing, is that realizing that, maybe, you've decided for your social media checklist, maybe you've decided you want to add TikTok. So now you're going to put a TikTok checklist in for all of your content creation. Yeah. So your systems and processes are going to change. And then, like we said, technology changes. And if, part of the documented process is using a particular tool, then you may have to change that. Maybe you change tools, or maybe the tool itself changes, or there's different steps. So, but the best part is, for us, most of the updates to the template are done by the virtual assistant. So when something changes, they'll come to us and say, this has changed. This is how we need to do it now. We're like, great, go ahead and update the template card. And then, we're all on the same page. So I think that's the other thing, is SOPs are always evolving.
Exactly. And it just makes it easy to keep them current, because it's not hard to change it. And then the change is there instantly. So there's no reason not to do it, because I think sometimes it's that admin of like, I've got to go in and update something. It's like, well, it's so easy with something like Trello or Asana. You've got the app on your phone probably already. You can literally go in and do it, or they can do it. You just say to them, hey, update the template, and it's done. It's brilliant. Thank you so much. I think this has been an amazing chat that we've had today. There's definitely been some really good, shifts in perspectives, and anybody who's been holding back from outsourcing and thinking like, well, I've got to get to a certain point before I can. Maybe you're starting to feel like, well, it could be possible, because it's not like you've got to do it all at once, do you? Like, as you said, hire slowly, fire quickly. So think about what's that first VA, or what's the next VA that could come in and form a role within your business. And hopefully today's conversation's made that something that you can ponder over. So I wanted to ask you, Kirsten, if you had any final advice that you would like to give somebody, or it's maybe like advice to your past self, or that, that nugget that you think we didn't cover today, but I'd really love to include it in our discussion.
Yeah. So since we do really focus on marketing, I think the biggest tip or point that I would like to have for a lot of women in particular is, don't be afraid to show up as yourself. So we work with a lot of clients that are Xers and boomers, so didn't grow up on tech or social media. And I'm always so amazed to see, we have a client in her 70s who she makes the most amazing videos about anyone I've ever seen. And she's just so fantastic with a virtual assistant. So, at any stage in life, wherever you are, don't be afraid to show up as yourself. I like to think of it, in the sense that, if you were at a local networking event, what people see is what they get. Well, on video, what they see is what they get. If you end up having a conversation with me, you decide you want to connect with me and have a conversation, I'm going to be exactly the same in that call that I am in this podcast interview. Or if you run into me locally, I'm going to be the same person. So show up authentically as yourself is the biggest piece of advice I can give to business owners with their marketing, and realize that you don't have to do it alone. You deserve support in your business. And if you want to step into that CEO role, that first step is getting support, whether it's 10 hours a week or 20 hours a week or whatever that looks like. You deserve to start moving in that direction.
Yeah. Oh, so good. I totally wholeheartedly agree with you. It's like, we're standing in our own way so much. And this is like that, real big call, wake up call to look and see, where are you standing in your own way, and can you get out of it? And, like you said, you want to grow your impact and income. Well, you're probably your own biggest bottleneck right now. So that is
one of the things that I mean to interrupt you. One of the things that I often say to people, because again, there is a lot of fear around, being on video, or, whatever that looks like, whether it's going on live or podcast interviews or creating your own YouTube channel, is I always say, let your desire to serve people help you overcome your fear, right? your fear should not be greater than your desire to truly help people. We throw that word impact around a lot but that seems so big. Like I want to have this huge impact. But the bottom line is your fear stopping you from helping that next person who really needs your help right now? Is there someone out there that you are meant to serve, but your fear is keeping you from really helping that person? So I think that's something that I think that we try to focus on with all of our clients and ourselves. Don't let our fear, keep us from really helping the people that need our help.
Yeah, so true. And, I wholeheartedly agree. I think it's like when you think, I want to make this big impact, you're thinking it's all about you, right? But actually, when you're getting out there, it's not about you. It's about the other person. And when you can just have that little shift, like you said, that's what I think helped me get over my fear was like, it's actually not about me. They're not there judging me about how I sound or the strange facial expressions I might have or whatever I'm thinking, all the criticisms of like why not to do it.
Right.
No one's thinking that. They're sitting there in their own world and it's about them. And it's always about them. And that, as soon as you realize that, you go, hey, it just does not matter. Whatever I've got hang-ups about, it doesn't matter at all because by not speaking, I'm not serving anybody. So just do it. Do it.
And I think being realistic on the flip side of that coin, if someone finds this video, this content, and they don't connect with you and I, that's okay. There's someone else out there who's meant to serve them, right? Yeah. So not everybody is going to connect, with me or with you or anyone out there. But what will happen is the people who are really meant to work with you will be drawn to you. They'll like the way you communicate. They will connect to your body language. They will, as you educate them, and we're really big on value-based content, when you really help put content out there that serves people, then they are going to like you and trust you, and they're going to want to take that next step and have a conversation with you. And so it's okay that, some people don't connect with your content. They're not meant to be your client. That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. You cannot control what other people will think. So why even worry about it?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, and again, you've been in business for a long time and so have I. And I think, if someone's out there, they're newer in business, the thought of firing a client probably seems scary. But the longer you're in business, you realize that sometimes you do take on clients that are not the right client for you, and you have to let them go. And so I would rather have, people who are not right for me figure that out before they reach out to me, right? Yeah. I'm not trying to, be mean, but, it's one of those things where we all want to help people, but we really want to have people that we're working with that are in line with our values and our mission, and our goals, our communication styles line up. So it's, so we really can help them.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And that is just a whole another topic that I completely agree with you that, it's that thing that happens, I think, after a little while where you realize it's not just about having another client. It's like, when it's the right client, this is a win-win for both of us. And it's amazing. Yes. And, maybe you do have to experience the ones that are not the right fit to know that that's not what you want and to kind of help yourself step into that place. But you raised such a good point. And it is like, you just notice it, that's why you've mentioned this. When you're out there doing your thing, the people who resonate with you, they already want to work with you before they've even got in touch. And they generally are the right fit because, you've already built some kind of rapport and relationship with them even before you've met, which is why it's so beautiful.
It really is.
Why it works. Yes. I love it.
Very powerful.
Oh, that's so good. Now, if anyone wants to find out a bit more about you and connect with you on other platforms, Kirsten, where can they best reach you? Where do you guys hang out?
So our website and our YouTube channel is Six Figure Business Coaching. So you can find us there. We have 2 podcasts and we do kind of talking head videos as well. So we try to provide a lot of educational content like you do. I also have a free guide for your audience. It's called Double Your Income with a Marketing Virtual Assistant. And you can get that at outsourcingforbosses.com. Outsourcingforbosses.com. It's a free guide that'll just help you get some more information about what it would look like to hire and work with a marketing virtual assistant.
Amazing. We'll make sure those are all linked up in the notes below. So dive in and find Kirsten. That sounds like a great guide to have. Like, why not double your income? Amazing. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I appreciate your time joining us today. This has been a really great chat, and so appreciate you taking time out of your evening to be here with me today.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I really had a great time and I appreciate you.
Thank you.